is midterms for students here at UW-Madison. So we want to make this information as accessible to students as possible. And obviously, we appreciate the time that the candidates have taken to join us here today and for all of you to join us as well. So yeah, thanks for being here. If you have an issue with recording, just well, be aware that only this section up here is visible, so none of you are being recorded. Yeah. And then there will be a question and answer portion, which I will explain the details of shortly. So yeah. So hello, everyone, and welcome to the Madison 2nd Alder District Forum. This is presented by the Mortgage Center for Public Service and the Student Voters Union of the University of Wisconsin-Madison. Thank you all once again for joining us tonight, and of course, thank you to our wonderful candidates for agreeing to partake. So my name's Kaylee Bell. I'm a junior here at UW-Madison. I'm a civic engagement intern with the Mortgage Center for Public Service and the president and co-founder of the Student Voters Union here at UW. I'm passionate about providing access to nonpartisan civic education material for students and ensuring that they have all of the information and materials necessary in order to be able to make their opinions known and to partake in the democratic process.
My name's Vanessa. I'm the other civic engagement education intern over at Mortgage. I am a second-year student here at UW studying economics, and then I have a myriad of policy-related certificates and interests. Having had such a long-standing passion for civic education, the opportunity to provide young voters and community members alike with the opportunity to have this type of programming available to them is truly a blessing, and I'm very appreciative to our two candidates for coming out tonight.
Hi, I'm Elise. I'll be the timekeeper tonight. I'm a second year studying environmental science and public policy, and I'm on the exec board of the Student Voters Union, and I'm also a democracy fellow with the Campus Vote Project.
So just going to give us some background information. Obviously, there is a continuing issue of a lack of civic education, especially surrounding local elections. So just going to give some background information, especially for anyone who is a first-time voter in a local election in terms of what the Madison Common Council is and what an alder is. So an alder is an elected representative of the municipal legislative body, also known as the city council. Here in Madison, we refer to our city council as the Madison Common Council. The mission of the Common Council is to represent the residents of Madison by promoting the safety, health, and overall well-being of the community, while integrating the city's core values into their work with available resources. The Madison Common Council is once again the legislative branch of the City of Madison's government. It consists of 20 alderpersons, which are each elected to one of the city's 20 districts. They address a variety of issues, including traffic, regulations, taxes, housing policy, etc., through ordinances and resolutions. And then the Madison Common Council is presided over by the mayor of Madison. So joining us tonight, we have Will and Mike. Thank you both so much for being here. We are just gonna do a couple housekeeping things. So before we begin, just to be clear, we have gone over the rules of the debate with both of the candidates, and they have both agreed to them. As a reminder, questions will be asked in alternating order. So we will ask one candidate, and then the next question we will move to starting with the second candidate. We will be starting first here, as he won the ultimate game of rock, paper, scissors. Just a few reminders. We ask that you hold your applause until the end of the forum, just for the sake of time. And also just decorum. Also, if you have any questions arise throughout the forum, you can submit them at that QR code there. Otherwise, you're also welcome to come up during the audience question and answer portion and ask your question. You'll have 1 minute to ask your question. All right. Now, with that, we're going to begin the forum. We will begin with opening statements from each of the candidates. They will each have 4 minutes to briefly describe their background, campaign, and why they decided to run for alder. And once again, we will be starting with an order that was determined fairly, so by rock, paper, scissors. And yeah, Will, if you want to get us started.
Hi, I'm Will Ahovich. I want to say thank you for having us. And yeah, it's my pleasure to be running. My name is Will. I've lived in Madison for over 10 years. I was a student at UW-Madison, and then I graduated, got a job, got married, never left. Fell in love with Madison. I work during the day as a software developer at a company called Find Help that works on social care software. We help connect people who need help with providers of help. And I'm really proud of the work we do there, but it's not why I'm running. I'm running because there are three main issues that I really care about. It's housing affordability and housing in general, transportation and street safety, and climate change are the three main issues that I think the city is facing coming up. Uh, in terms of housing affordability, I think everyone feels the crunch. Rents have been going up pretty significantly over the past few years. It's difficult to find a place to buy. It's difficult to move up or to move out. It's difficult to find a place in your neighborhood. This is something that I've gone to places like Hill Farms and heard about people who have homes that are too big for them, but they can't find a place to downsize into, and it creates all sorts of issues. It also plays really well into transportation. The city recently launched the bus rapid transit route last August. I really like the bus rapid transit route. I'm a big supporter of it. But in order to help make sure that it works well, the city also launched the transit oriented development overlay, which is it's too many acronyms, too many terms, but basically it increased the number of housing units you could build near BRT. And the point of that was to allow people to live and work near transit so that they would be able to walk or bike to transit and then also walk or bike to work. And that works really well with BRT because then BRT has the ridership it needs to stay running as a transit line. And then that leads into climate change. And the big issue with climate change is there's two main issues, mitigation and resilience. So mitigation is the number of carbon emissions that we as a city generate. The city is moving towards net zero operations, and they're on target to be totally carbon-free operations-wise by 2030, which is a pretty big deal. But we still have a lot of ways to go in terms of how we build our city, how we build our buildings, and how we just operate in terms of daily life in reducing our carbon emissions. We also have resilience, which is primarily flooding is the biggest issue that we run into here in Madison. Following the 2018 floods, there was a big push to reduce the amount of stormwater runoff and to alleviate flooding, especially in the downtown area where we have a lot of older infrastructure and wetlands. The first part of that is actually the Near West Watershed Study, and that's coming up next week, and I haven't read the report yet, but that's sort of the accumulation of many years of study to try and alleviate these extreme events caused by climate change. I have spent my past few years in local politics working with a group called Madison is for People. We're a local YIMBY group, a pro-housing group. I'd love to talk about some of the policies that we helped enact and positive changes that we've made to make housing more affordable in Madison. And yeah.
Hi, I'm Matt Egger. I am 40 years old. I guess to tell my story. So I've been in Madison about 20 years. I went to school, actually. I grew up in Germantown, Wisconsin, near Milwaukee. Went to school in Whitewater, in poli-sci. And during my time there, we were lucky enough, or we worked to get Kim Hickson elected to the legislature from there. And so we flipped a red seat to blue. And so I was able to, upon graduation, come up with him, intern in his office, and he made a pitch on the floor. And I was able to, after working for him, I was hired on by Peter Barca. Some of you may know him. He's a Democrat. He came in. He was a longtime Democrat in the legislature. Went to Congress, left for a while, came back. When he came back, I had the fortune to serve with him. He came back, and we were elected into leadership. And so we served when the Democrats were in leadership for 2 years as the majority caucus chair. Then we lost the majority, and I became his policy director when he became the minority leader. This is the era of Scott Walker and Act 10. And so that was when we had the orange shirts, and people may recall the rallies at the Capitol and things like that. I worked for him on things like the state's texting while driving ban. We are also successful in getting a memorial placed in the state capitol for prisoners of war and missing in action veterans. And so it's again tangible results of my experience. And then worked through the pandemic, worked for a series of legislators. Then I actually had a brain injury, and so kind of shook up my life. Recovered from that. As part of that, it was determined, or it came out that I was an alcoholic and had to address that. And so since this is 2021, I've been sober, and now I work as a sobriety advocate and a sobriety sponsor within AA. And so that's a little bit of my personal life and a little bit of what I do in the community. But yeah, so from the background of working at the Capitol, I've also Dane County Executive Phil Parisi appointed me to the Community Development Block Grant Commission. And so I guess I'm trying to weave together all my years of kind of experience. And so all that brought me to here. We had an open seat in my home district here right next to James Madison Park in the second. And so I took the opportunity to throw my hat into the ring based on my time and my life experience. And so my platform is a Madison that is safe, smart, and affordable. Smart, safe, and affordable. When I thought of what I want from a community, or what I think people want from a community, it's about public safety, and that obviously crime is under control and managed thoughtfully and appropriately. That we're doing the kind of forward thinking and progressive minded things that I think we all relish as a community in Madison, and that we're not pricing people out, that it's affordable, that no matter where your lot is in life, that you can find a place to live that fits your needs and lets you be a part of the greater thing that's happening here. And so that's kind of the platform that I've run on. And I believe that I can bring my experience over the many years to translate to actually impacting policy at the city level. And so I am here to ask for your support and to speak to my qualifications.
All right, thank you so much. So I would like to start with just a basic broad overview of what your top 3 priorities are should you be elected to District 2 Alder. How do you plan to achieve them? And additionally, as we've kind of discussed, how a lot of community members and young voters are not necessarily familiar with the Madison Common Council, how do you plan to improve communication and transparency between the council and your residents?
Yeah, I think it's the internet is the ability for people to again, I'm led to believe that there's a room here that I don't even see because people are online, and so much like that, I've been able to attend basically every city council meeting from virtue of my living room. And so I think those kind of tech options are excellent for getting the government into the community and making the connection between the people and those in powers and the decision makers that much closer. And so in my time at the Capitol, I've worked with groups and held listening sessions with legislators that I've worked for, and obviously would replicate that kind of process for myself. Because I think at the end of the day, a good leader is somebody who's translating the needs of the constituents and the people that they represent into action. And so understanding it is paramount. And so I think it's about making yourself available, and that's what I've tried to do. We've been a little bit truncated here as we've I had a short race that snuck up on us. But yeah, I think making public officials making themselves available to the people that they represent is paramount, and that they be keeping a watchful eye on what's going on for the community and translating that and connecting the dots between what is important to the citizens that you represent and what is going on in the city, in the community, and how best the two interplay.
All right, thank you. My top 3 priorities: housing, transportation, climate change. I'm sure they will come up more in later questions, so I won't focus too much on those, but I'll get to your second part of your question, which is about communicating with residents. Probably the most important job and most important part about being an alder is communication. It's meeting with your constituents, and there are so many little things that come up, from garbage not being picked up to dangerous intersections to somebody littering, that an alder needs to be responsive, they need to be paying attention, and they need to follow up and make sure that people who bring up their issues are solvable. That just requires work. It requires attention, and I will bring that. But on top of that, there are other larger projects that an Alder is responsible for. Coming up in the next 3 years, affecting downtown, we have the downtown area plan. And then in 2028, we have the comprehensive plan update for the city. Those are major updates that will affect everything from city planning to economic development to historic preservation. And they will have large reaching impacts across the city for the next 10 years. One thing that I was really impressed that Minneapolis did when they updated their comprehensive plan is they didn't just hold city meetings and have people come to them. They actually went out to where people were and they asked them direct questions on things that were going to be up for debate in the plan. Would you support additional housing here? How do you feel about a park here? And they would go to grocery stores, they would go to banks, they would go to places where people are in their daily lives. And they would actually ask them questions so you don't just have a few people coming to you who may or may not be representative of the larger community. And I would bring that sort of energy and that sort of ideology to communication when I'm an Alder.
Right, Matt, you have the opportunity to respond. If you choose to, you will have 1 minute. Okay, moving on to our second question. So, Will, you mentioned something about pedestrian safety and safety of the roads. The majority of residents rely on biking and walking to get around. How do you, should you be elected Alder, plan to improve pedestrian and biker safety in the downtown and campus adjacent region, particularly in areas where reckless driving and traffic violations are a concern? What specific measures would you advocate for to hold dangerous drivers accountable and create safer streets for non-motorists?
Yeah, thank you. I am a biker. I bike all the time. I also take the bus, I walk, and I drive. I use just about every mode of transportation. I agree that we need safer streets. It's something that's come up as I've knocked doors. You talk to people and they say, I don't feel like I can walk outside my front door without a car speeding by and feeling dangerous. We need to fix that through infrastructure changes. I'm a big proponent of the idea that you can't just enforce your way to street safety. There's simply not enough resources. We need infrastructure changes. A good example of what the city has done with this is the Transportation Committee set up a quick build on the Mifflin Bike Boulevard. And essentially what they did is residents in the Tenny Lapham neighborhood were talking about how dangerous the bike boulevard is, and you would often have people speeding down it. So the city did a quick build of a diverter, which is essentially a way to make bike traffic go both ways and car traffic go one way. And they put that up, they tested it out for a few months, and they found that, hey, this actually did slow down traffic. It did make people feel safer. And so they're going to take this temporary thing that was just rain barrels and turn it into an actual permanent infrastructure. Those are the sorts of projects that we need. We also need, they're called RRFBs. You push the button and the thing blinks above the street as you're crossing it, the pedestrian signal. I can't remember what RRFB stands for, but getting those in dangerous areas. I was talking with someone who is on the neighborhood association, and somebody was recently hit crossing Gilman in Wisconsin. That's a dangerous intersection. That was 2 years ago. The city has still not done anything about that. I would focus on making that safer. It's at the it's just over the crest of a hill. It's an extra wide intersection, and there's nothing to indicate that somebody is going across. So, I would focus on, again, working with people, working on making sure that when there are issues, I'm responding and we're actually getting changes to the infrastructure to fix things.
Yeah, and in short, I don't think we disagree. I think obviously safety and people not being physically struck by automobiles is paramount in our community. And I think really, if the best way to keep laws enforced is to enforce laws. And so I know I am the candidate endorsed by the Madison Police Department, and in their union. And so I think it's about having enforcement, having people watching and bodies out and patrolling and making sure that our laws are being enforced. And so I don't know that there's a, you have to invent a new mousetrap. It's that, we have laws and we need to dedicate the resources to enforcing those laws. I think my colleague here spoke to a lot of the intricacies and the newfangled things coming online. But I think at the end of the day, we have law enforcement to enforce laws, and I think working with them and making sure that, particularly like where we know there's problem areas, and I think if you've been in our district and kind of on campus, where there's high, there's where you got to look twice, and so I think working with police and working with the community to address those, it would be kind of that would be the policy I would pursue.
All right. Will, you have a 1-minute period if you so choose to respond to anything that he said.
Yeah, there are hundreds, maybe thousands of miles of city road in Madison, and there's only a handful of police officers who are available to police those roads at any given time. And the state has banned red light cameras and traffic cameras and speed cameras and basically any automated enforcement. And maybe that'll change in the upcoming session, but I don't think you can enforce your way to safety.
All right. Thank you. Moving on to our next topical question, we will be talking about housing. Particularly, we're going to be talking about something that I know is an issue in many of the properties in District 2. I have a lot of friends that live in that area, and some of their apartments are not in the best condition. So landlords around campus have been criticized for poor maintenance and high rental prices. How would you advocate for stronger tenant protections and fair rental practices for student renters? And more broadly, how do you plan to address Madison's housing crisis as a member of the Common Council if you are elected?
Yeah, I mean, starting with that end part first, it's about stock. It's about, if we need more places to house more people, if we're going to have more people, and especially if, if we're going to, a lot of those, like you spoke to, are in ill repair and in need of new life in them, or perhaps replacement. And so I've been a proponent, of expanding in a thoughtful manner the available housing stock, and to make sure that it's fitting our need. I had the pleasure. Housing has been something I've worked on because Dane County Executive Joe Parisi had appointed me to the Dane County Community Development Block Grant Commission, and then, so that's responsible for allocating federal dollars throughout the county for housing issues and other related community services. And so there we had kind of the bird's eye view of within our county, kind of how housing is playing out. And again, it won't alert, everyone in this room probably knows that, it's on the tips of people's tongues that we need housing that doesn't cost an arm and a leg, that the folks who are in school or young professionals or people trying to, wherever you are on the ladder, we need a spot that fits you and that you can, live and contribute and be a part of our great community here. And so yeah, it's about driving stock and being mindful of, making sure that we're meeting the need and I guess that's what I'm for, and again, smart, safe, and affordable. I want people to be able to live in our community without being priced out. And so I think that's paramount, and those are the kind of policies that I would pursue.
Yeah, I was on the city's housing strategy committee. I've been doing housing policy advocacy for several years. There are a lot of ideas, and I'm not going to be able to get all of them in 2 minutes. Updating and building new housing is really important. Also, just building code enforcement. The state has banned proactive building code enforcement. It used to be that if there was a notoriously unsafe building, and we just had a building start on fire on Gorham the other day, if there's a notoriously unsafe building code inspectors could proactively go out there, inspect the premises, and issue violations. You're not allowed to do that anymore. And now it's complaint-based. And what that means is that individual people have to complain to the city, and that invites retaliation from your landlord. That's not okay. We need to, as an alder, I would like to collectively get a bunch of people, to get stronger together. They can't retaliate against us all, and file a list of complaints and get them addressed simultaneously so that no one individual can be retaliated against. I sorry. Also, educating people on building codes and sort of the basic things that you need to expect. A working smoke detector, working carbon monoxide detector, working locks, a working doorbell. Those are all things that are required by the building code. And a lot of people don't realize that. And so they might not know that they have recourse. If your landlord doesn't turn on the heat, you have recourse. And the city actually has a really good landlord and tenant issues committee. It's now been combined with another committee, but their job is to mediate these disputes, prevent retaliation, and also make sure that if your rights have been violated as a tenant, you're getting the compensation you need for having unlivable living spaces. And so meeting with people, again, outreach, education, making sure people know their rights. I think those are the most important things.
And you have 1 minute to respond if you so choose.
Yeah, not really to rebut, but just in 2012, I was actually working for Leader Barca when the Republicans pushed through all those anti-housing proposals. And so I physically drafted myself amendments to try to fix or change or basically take out those problems. So this is something we've been aware of. These are problems that were literally almost caused intentionally by the Republicans in the legislature. And so now our community has to kind of mop up the mess. And so I don't know that there's a whole lot of daylight between us on this, but I think we all want what's, a community that makes sense for our community. And so I think, the need for more housing is apparent to everyone. And so I think there's plenty of room for agreement there.
All right, thank you very much. Now, I would like to take a pivot, if you could call it that, from the topic. So the District 2 is very heavily students, and students play a large role in civic life here in Madison. But the unfortunate reality is that many students are not originally from the city of Madison or Wisconsin and may not be aware of their local voting rights. How would you work to increase student voter turnout and engagement in local elections? What would you do to make the city government more accessible and understandable for these students who are new to the world of voting?
Thank you. I think the last Supreme Court election and hopefully this Supreme Court election show that a lot of students really do know their rights, but it's a matter of motivating them, educating them, getting them out. It takes a lot of effort from people working in Dane Dems, people working in college Dems. I'm sure the work you do, I'm not totally familiar, but it's a lot of work to get people aware that there's an upcoming election, knowing what's on the ballot and what the issues are. Last Supreme Court election, we saw record turnout from students. It was really exciting. And it didn't just happen. It was a lot of work from organizers and people who were going around knocking doors and educating people. I think it's important that, as an Alder, I would work with those organizations and try and get them coordinated. I would go out door knocking myself. I've been door knocking before, and, I wouldn't call it fun, but, it is. It is important. I would also think that we need to just advertise, make sure that people are aware of upcoming elections, and yeah.
Yeah, while our own race may not be a very good example, because unfortunately, as kind of maybe a fact of life, the city council doesn't garner that much attention. But I know in my background from college and then working with the Democratic Party and the Assembly Democratic Campaign Committee that, yeah, it's about meeting people where they are and engaging with them. And so, I think this is a wonderful thing. But yeah, if we could get engage groups and kind of use networks, as we know that's kind of how people are connected these days, and I guess share those threads and get the message through to people, and again, I think it's meeting people where they are, being in front of people, being at the door and in the coffee house in the community, but yeah, I think it's incumbent on us to try to get in front of people and bother them with our priorities and what we think the community needs, and to engage them and to get them to both give us their point of view and to make sure that they're invested in all of our future. And so yeah, I think it's a mix of outreach and being available, and I think there's nothing better. I thank all you for coming out, because it does speak to your passion and your concern for what's going on. And I think it's about meeting people where they are and speaking about what they're concerned about. And so I guess if our topics aren't speaking to them, perhaps we need to change topics. But it's about, I think, engaging with people. And I think my background with the state Democrats and the kind of work I've done staffing and running other people's offices, where we've done the kind of listening sessions and kind of engagement opportunities that I would like to kind of continue to do, or really start to launch as I foray myself under my own name into politics.
Will, you have 1 minute to respond if you choose to.
Yeah, I just want to really quickly say, neither one of us are students. We're both running to replace Juliana Bennett. She's a former student. I think it's important that students continue to have representation. I have a really good working relationship with MGR, who's the other student alder. I have a good relationship with Juliana Bennett. I'm endorsed by both of them. And as an alder, I will make sure that students are heard on the city council. I have heard people say before that students are not a city problem, they're a university problem. And I truly don't believe that. They are constituents. They are people who live in our city, and it is my responsibility as an alder to make sure that they are heard.
All right, and at this point, this is when we would shift to some audience questions, although that was a lot of what the questions that we received were about, was regarding student engagement. Is there anyone in the room that has any questions at all? Otherwise, we do have some additional topical questions that we can ask. Please say your name, your pronouns if you would like to, and then your question.
Hi, my name is Rory Faring. My pronouns are he, him. I'm in District 8, actually, but my question to both of you would be, given that your previous work with the Democratic Party and just endorsements from Democrats in general, why do you both run as independents?
I'm actually going to jump in here and say something that I should have disclosed at the beginning. City council races are all nonpartisan elections, so you cannot, you will not be identified with a party like automatically. So just for clarification. So yeah, but go ahead.
You run as an independent. I'm endorsed by Dane Dems. Matt is up for endorsement by Dane Dems. I'm sure, we both have affiliation with the Democratic Party. It's just that you can't be listed on the ballot as a Democrat.
Yeah, that's kind of, thank you for the question. Related to another question that we received online, and merged with a question that actually arose from a student from a town hall with MGR, who is the alder for District 8, which is the campus district, which is also very relevant for you both, as District 2 is, like we have previously established, largely students. So in addition to engaging students in general, do you have any plans to specifically engage the Associated Students of Madison, which is the student government of UW-Madison, or are there any groups on campus that you have any lasting relationships with, or ones that you plan to build relationships with?
Well, I tried to reach out to MGR, and so I would love to meet with him, but yeah, I'm happy to. I've been available and I'm trying to make myself available. So yeah, I guess spread the word that I would love to meet with people. I'm trying to meet with people, and unfortunately, maybe you've felt it too, but city council is not exactly. People are not knocking down our doors to meet with us necessarily. So yeah, I'd like to meet with MGR, and I'd love to meet with whoever would like to meet with us.
All right. Yeah, I mean, I'd love to meet with people. I was not involved with student politics before, so I don't have connections with ASM, but like I said, good relationships with a lot of the current alders, including MGR. I would love to meet with people on ASM and work with them, especially given a lot of the federal issues that are trickling down to the university level. And I'm sure they have concerns about funding for research programs, funding for grants and scholarships, and also just city issues that we as alders can have a huge impact on. So yeah, I would love to meet with them. Also have worked with college Dems a little bit. They are good. And I'm sure there are other political organizations on campus, but yeah, just have not been involved in the past and would like to reach out to them.
Matt, you have 1 minute to respond if you so choose. All right, moving on then. Students contribute significantly to the local economy, but many struggle to find part-time jobs that pay a living wage. How would you support student workers and push for fair labor practices in student-heavy employment sectors? How would you support student-friendly businesses and ensure that downtown remains affordable and vibrant for students to socialize in?
I think it comes down to, first of all, state. It's a common theme in every question, but state has banned the city from doing a lot of things like raising the minimum wage. I would like to get rid of the sub minimum wage for tipped workers. And also, I think another thing that the city can do that they actually have power to do is investigate and remediate wage theft. It's really common among people working service jobs to have owners withhold wages or punish people for what they're doing. So working with the Equal Opportunities Commission to fight wage theft, I think is going to be a big thing for that. As far as supporting businesses, it's making sure that State Street rents are reasonable. Part of that is there's a lot of reasons why State Street rent is unaffordable, but I think a major issue is the number of landlords who are just holding their units vacant on the street, hoping to get higher rents. I would, I think it comes down to meeting with them and actually pushing them. The city doesn't have a ton of levers to actually get them to do anything unless they're going through zoning approvals or some other city-led process. But meeting with them and just trying to get them to rent out their spaces.
All right. Whenever you're ready.
Can you just restate the question?
Sorry, the mic is coming loose. Students contribute to the local economy, but many struggle to find part-time jobs that pay a living wage. How would you support student workers and push for fair labor practices in student-heavy employment sectors?
Yeah.
And how would you support student-friendly businesses to ensure downtown remains a vibrant place for students to socialize?
Yeah, and so I have a pretty big background in labor policy and economics from the left or democratic economics. I don't know that a part-time job is supposed to be a living wage. I think by virtue of a part-time job, it's supposed to be part-time. But I get that we're trying to people are trying to offset. Obviously as students they can't find full-time job, and so it's about trying to rise the dial on what they're able to bring home. And so I think it's about the economics about it, and I think a lot of minimum wages and things like that are well out of our hands, but a lot of it's competition against other employers, and so it's that all ships sort of rise together, and so I think fostering the opportunity or that as wages as we see them grow, they continue to grow, but unfortunately we need to stem that and we need to kind of bolster opportunities for a job to exist and then to rise them up. And then so I guess at the city level, again, I'd be open to discussing what other communities have looked at minimum wages and things like that. I don't know that I'm proposing that, but I'm happy to discuss it, and because I think we do. People definitely need to live in our community, and especially here in our district, here in the center of the city, where things are tend to be probably the most expensive of the whole community. And so I think it's a holistic approach, but not necessarily a silver bullet. But yeah, obviously something that needs to be, kind of that people need to be able to generate the income they need to live in the community. That's kind of 101 type stuff that for you to exist and thrive in the community, you need to have the job available. And so, I think the city, as part of the larger engine, needs to be working on making sure that there are the jobs at the end of the day for the people that are, in school here, that are in the community, not in school here, and that live in this, right in our downtown area, that they have the ability to create the, to succeed.
Will, you have 1 minute to respond if you choose to.
Okay, and then a question about winter conditions, which obviously we know very well being here in Wisconsin. So winter conditions make sidewalks, crosswalks, and bike lanes very hazardous for students who are walking or biking to class or back to their homes. How would you improve winter road and sidewalk maintenance to ensure student safety and just generally the safety of everyone within District 2?
Yeah, it's about, I think investment and making sure that we have the resources and the road teams and the capacity to make sure we're addressing it. I'm a person with disability because I had a fall and a brain injury, and so I know very well how how dangerous conditions can really create problems. But I think it's about working through those issues and making sure that we are doing what we can. And yeah, I think, as somebody who with a disability, I think that the city needs to factor those kind of things in. And yeah, I guess, yeah, I a little bit lost my train of thought, but yeah, that's my position.
Um, so it mainly comes down to money is a big thing. Downtown, we're actually a little lucky in that the city takes care of the streets and the sidewalks, and clears them off. But actually properly funding that requires operating budget money, and the city just have a referendum. The city does not have a ton of money to spend on sidewalk safety. The other part of that is holding owners accountable. As an owner, you are responsible for clearing off the sidewalk in front of your area, outside of that downtown area. So holding them accountable and making sure that they are actually clearing it off. But the other thing for clearing off sidewalks is the city doesn't have a huge operating budget, but we actually have a business improvement district downtown, and they are responsible for clearing off State Street and the Capitol Square. And you might have seen that guy who seems to just go around blowing everything all the time. That's paid for by the bid. And so working with them in the business improvement district and the community to see if they'd be willing to expand their services to some of the areas just off of State Street and along the university to make sure that it is safe for people, and especially people with disabilities. It's, as an able person, it can be difficult sometimes. And sometimes I step across a sidewalk that has a 6-inch puddle, and I don't understand how someone in a wheelchair is supposed to be able to navigate the city that way. So it is really important that we make sure that it's safe for everyone.
Matt, you have 1 minute to respond if you choose to.
Yeah. No, I think the city needs to be, doing what it needs to maintain our streets and provide safe accommodations and for folks to travel. And so, yeah, I don't think there's much more to belabor.
Right, thank you. I would like to take this opportunity to once again open it up to our audience if anyone has any questions. Okay, so we do have one more pre-prepared question. So there have been ongoing discussions about policing around campus, including how the Madison Police Department and the university's police department, UWPD, interact with students. What is your stance on policing in student neighborhoods, and how should you be elected, would you balance safety concerns with accountability measures?
Yeah, I think it's about communications and about having, that interactions with police and the community shouldn't be fraught or shouldn't be a controversy, but it is because obviously on both sides it seems like I think people feel like everyone's the bad guy, that students feel like police aren't there to protect them, that in some cases they don't feel like police are there to protect them, but just to kind of narc on them or ruin their day. And police obviously are serving a rightful service in keeping our community safe, and we do have, we're a community that invites a huge ton of young adults to our community every year, and they party and they get educated, and it's part of our community, and it's great. But it's about navigating that and making sure that it's done safely and that it's not overbearing and that police aren't violating people's rights or doing anything unconstitutional, but that it's not overbearing, and that that there's a sort of a mutual respect and a give and take, and that we understand that we're a community that has young people, and that that 2 o'clock in the morning is a time when people still could be out. But I think it's a both navigating that, but also making sure that we're a community that can be safe and is doing all we can to address crime and keep our streets clear of drunk drivers and problems of drug sales and things like that. I think there's much that the community can be doing and needs to be doing, and I think police are definitely a piece of that, and I think it's all about doing the things we want to do to have the Madison that we want to live in, and so I want to be an advocate for that on this issue and kind of across the board.
So as alders, we can't control the UW-Madison police, but we can control the Madison police. And that being said, the UW-Madison police chief is now the Madison police chief. I know he was largely responsible for a lot of the crackdowns on the camps on campus, which I imagine is part of where this feeling of unsafety comes from. And it really is just not okay to attack people for expressing their First Amendment rights. I mean, we saw Trump do this just this past week with arresting the grad student from Columbia for protesting. And, I understand why that makes people feel unsafe. There's been talk in Madison about body cameras and those sorts of things. Madison did a study. They found that it didn't really change police behavior. It didn't really make people feel safer. It was also really expensive. I don't think that body cameras are going to be the solution here. I think it comes down to reducing the number of interactions between police and students. And, the right amount of policing from an Alder perspective is the amount of policing that makes people feel safe. And so if I'm talking to my constituents and they're saying, hey, I don't like that there's a cop patrolling all the time and they're harassing people, then that's going to be a conversation with the precinct chief, the downtown precinct chief, and talking about what their patrol patterns are and making sure that people actually feel safe.
Matt, you have 1 minute to respond if you so choose.
I think we both like to say 50.
All right, with that, we will conclude the audience Q&A portion and move to our candidates' closing remarks for today's forum. Each candidate will now have the opportunity to give a 4-minute closing statement, and we're going to start with the candidate who gave their opening statement last. So we'll be starting with Matt.
Yeah, I'm Matt Egger. Again, I've been in the community about 20 years and worked at the Capitol for Democratic legislators. I have accomplishments under my belt, both winning elections and delivering Representatives Fred Clark and Steve Doyle to the Capitol and passing legislation, including the state's texting while driving ban, several tax policies, the state's POW MIA Chair of Honor, which is a monument in the center of the rotunda. I have tangible things that I've done that can speak to my accomplishments. I'm a committed person in the community. I've dealt with my own struggles through alcoholism and now serve as a AA sponsor and just feel like I'm running because I feel like I've come to a point in my life where I have lived a life of done a lot of things, and I believe in my time working with legislators and kind of honing my skills and understanding what it takes to lead and how best to understand the needs of a community and to use that to implement public policy is a skill set of mine. And so, you know, for anything that I may not have done exactly properly or as in the last couple months as we try to run into this race, I intend to address and do it, you know, up to the level I've become accustomed to of demanding of the people I work for. And so, again, I look forward to striving to meet a high mark because I think voters in this community and on campus demand that of their representatives. And so I will strive to do what I can to put our community first and do you know, what is best for the people where we live in particular, but for the whole community. And I think my background speaks to that, again, from professional circles to life experiences. I believe I've shown myself to be a compassionate and a zealous advocate and a champion for causes that I believe in. And I think that I could be a good voice for the people of our community. This race is we're only serving one term, and I think we'll probably both be in front of you again in a year if this doesn't go the way one of us doesn't like. But I think Will's a great guy, and I hope he feels the same about me. But I think that my experience sets me apart, and that's why I threw my hat in the race. I'm not here to waste anybody's time. I believe that I'm the better candidate, and that's why I've chosen to run to represent my community on the Common Council. And I'll leave it with that, but I ask for your support, and I believe that if you do support me, I will not let you down.
I don't know you very well. You seem like a great guy. Yeah, I'm running. I've been involved in city politics for several years. I understand what the city has been working on, where the city needs to go in the future. I'm very policy oriented. I am very open to talking with people, learning about your experience, your concerns. And I'm running because I really care about this district and the people here. I've got big shoes to fill with Alder Juliana Bennett stepping down. But you know, and with all the city is not the city has its fair share of problems, but it also has a really bright future ahead of it. I really want to be a part of helping Madison grow, help Madison become a better, more affordable place, making sure that people have the jobs and the wages that they need, that their housing is affordable, that they're able to get on to work on time, that you know the bus system runs well. All of the little things that help make a city great. It's really the city council that is responsible for that, and I want to be part of that. I have spent, you know, several years working on housing policy, but I have a variety of issues that I care about. And, you know, I hope you can see that I've done my research. I've looked into a lot of the issues, and I'm ready to represent you all. You can find out more about me on my website, willahovich for district2.com. And also willing to talk to anyone after the meeting. I want to say thank you for hosting and yeah. Thanks.
All right. With that, we want to take a moment also to thank everyone who made this event possible. So first, thank you to both of our candidates for attending. Obviously, this would not be possible without both of you. Additionally, we'd like to thank all of the personnel from the Mortgage Center for Public Service and the Student Voters Union for their support in coordinating and hosting this event, especially Shelby Fosco and Sarah, lovely Sarah behind us. Also, thank you to the facility staff here today for allowing us to use this space and for all the work that they have done to make this event possible. Also, thank you to everyone who has attended this forum and also everyone who will be watching the recording online and for being active, informed citizens.
Finally, if you have any questions about voting, about getting involved with the Mortgage Center or Student Voters Union, please come speak with us. We will talk your ears off. We are more than happy to help you in any way with that. And also there is food outside, like right next to the stairwell and to the left of the elevators, I believe it is. You'll see the spread. Please eat before you leave. And with that, this concludes the 2025 Alder District 2 Forum. Make sure to vote.
Just gonna do this. We are.
Steal you both before you head out.